let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and let's talk about this Germany game. So this game started at 9:30. Yes, I woke up at 9:30 in the morning to watch this abysmal game. And simply put, Wir Steiten, which is German for we stink. Like, the Giants are bad. They're a terrible team. And I've never talked about them before, so I'm sure, like, if you've been watching the sports podcast, then you already know just how bad this team is. And if you've been paying attention to the NFL season, then you already know how bad this team is. Daniel Jones threw 2 interceptions in this game. What else is new? There were a lot of fumbles. There were a lot of turnovers on both sides as well. It was not pretty. And this game was so bad that it eventually ended up going into overtime, meaning I had to force myself to watch a completely different quarter that I just did not want to watch. And, of course, the Giants, they had the ball in the overtime period, first possession, and, of course, they fumble the ball to lose the game. And I'm not really mad about the fumble, honestly. Because the big reason why I'm not mad about this loss is because now the Giants, they have the number 1 pick in the draft. As of right now. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but as of right now, I do not want the Giants to win anymore. I want that first overall pick in the draft. And let's talk about the game itself. So again, the game was really, really slow. Like it wasn't a high scoring game, as you guys can tell by the score. It was 17-20 and the Giants ended up losing. The Panthers, they ended up starting out with a field goal. Actually, no, they did not. Excuse me, that was wrong. Both of the teams exchanged punts. Then the Panthers, they ended up scoring a touchdown, while meanwhile the Giants, they were forced to punt again. And then they scored a field goal to go up 10-0. And then the Giants decided to be a real class act and just miss the field goal completely. So, yeah. And then they both exchanged punts again. It was really a punt off. And then Daniel Jones threw an interception near the red zone. Of course he did, because he's Daniel Jones. That's what he does. And then, luckily, the Panthers, they didn't really score off of it. But, of course, we end the first half completely scoreless. Really, the comeback, well, the fake comeback, I should say, like a catfish comeback almost, it started towards the end of the game. And it was just awful. I mean, the Panthers, they started off with a touchdown and to make the score 17-0. But then, actually no, excuse me, the Giants, they scored a touchdown to make it 7-10, and then the Panthers answered right back with a touchdown of their own to make it 17-7. But then out of nowhere, the Giants, they found life with a 13-play, 96-yard drive from Daniel Jones, which was honestly a little bit impressive, I will say that. But regardless, that does not change my opinion on Daniel Jones. He is I actually haven't really given my opinion on him, because for some reason, there's a lot of Giants fans that they still have faith in him, and they still think he's a solid quarterback, and he just needs more pieces around him. I'm not one of those guys. In my opinion, Daniel Jones is bad and isn't an NFL caliber quarterback. At no point in this man's entire career, aside from 2022, has he looked like the starting quarterback that the Giants have been looking for. And I think this season just enforces the notion that not only he's fragile, but he cannot win a game. The Giants are one of the only 2 teams that have not been able to win a game at home this season. And the other team, of course, is Dallas, because Dallas, right? But aside from that, I mean, the Giants, they're just bad. And a big reason why they're bad is because they have a quarterback that has the inability to win games. One of the things that made me like Daniel Jones in 2022 was the fact that it didn't matter how bad they played throughout the first 3 quarters. It seemed like he was always able to find a way to make this team win in the fourth and make the other team angry. And that was one of the things that I thought would have solidified him as being the franchise quarterback, but of course I was wrong. This season just enforces the notion that Daniel Jones is a quarterback that can't do much. He can't throw the ball more than 20 yards down the field. He has terrible decision making, and he still fumbles the ball like it ain't no thing. Not to mention the fact that he loves to throw these interceptions out of nowhere, because, that's just Daniel Jones. But back on this game, and speaking of interceptions, in the fourth quarter, the Giants had a golden chance to win the game and to take the lead off of a fumble coming in from the defense, because, that's just our defense. Our defense is always incredibly solid. Again, solid. There are chances where we just, put up stinker performances on the defense, but there's also chances where we end up getting turnovers. But of course, since we have Daniel Jones at quarterback, those turnovers end up being nothing as Daniel Jones throws an interception. and completely negates the turnover that they ended up getting. Now, I will say that Tracy Jr., I believe it was, did end up not catching the ball. Like, the ball hit him right in his hands, and then he bobbled around, and then the Panthers defender was able to make a play and make the interception possible. But still, that's an interception that looks like a Daniel Jones interception. Nothing we can really do about it. That's just something that he does. And luckily, they didn't score off of that drive, and they ended up having to punt. So that gave us another opportunity to try and win the game. But of course, it ends in a 3-and-out, and we have to punt. Then we get another opportunity to win the game, but this time we don't have any timeouts. But we end up getting a field goal, which sends the game into overtime. But it doesn't matter. We fumble the ball again on the very first play of the drive and ultimately lose the game. So that's how the cookie crumbles. And on an individual standpoint, I mean, their running back, Chuba Hubbard, was absolutely destroying us in this entire game. He ended the game with 153 yards on the ground, along with 1 touchdown on 28 attempts. I mean, he was just unreal in this game, straight up just walking all over our defense. It was not good. However, I will say that Tyrone Tracy Jr., aside from those fumbles that he ended up causing, which seems to be a really big problem with these running backs. I mean, Singletary had that problem as well early on in the season, just fumbling the ball for no reason. I mean, Daniel Jones, he also ran in for a touchdown as well. But again, those turnovers, they don't mean anything. I'm sorry. Like, when you turn the ball over as much as he does, it doesn't matter how many touchdowns you end up scoring. He's just so turnover prone. It's not even funny. Like, he has 8 touchdowns in the season and 7 interceptions. That is not good, and there's still people that defend him to this day. I don't understand how that's even possible, and I don't understand. I think this is going to be the only quarterback in the history of football to not win a home game, to lead his team to 2-8, and people still give him the benefit of the doubt, because I've never seen any other quarterback be able to do that. Not to mention the fact that they lost to Bryce Young, who is looking to be like one of the biggest NFL busts in recent history. Looking to be, again, not entirely sure. His career is still young, so we do have to see how the rest of it goes. But again, this game was all Chuba Hubbard because Bryce Young didn't necessarily play all that good in this matchup either. I mean, he had a 15 for 25 completion rate, and he threw 126 yards, but he did throw a touchdown. Despite this, he still finished with a higher QBR than Daniel Jones, which shows just how awful he is. But that's besides the point. And, I mean, again, this game was, I don't want to say it was as turnover prone as the Lions game because, like, I mean, it wasn't just like, both sides having turnovers. It was really just one side that was really dominant in the turnover category, which was the Giants. Of course they were, because why wouldn't they be? And I mean, this game was just really, really ugly. The fact that it had to end off of a turnover from the Giants and turned into a field goal for the Panthers was ugly. But again, I'm not necessarily mad at that because now the Giants, they have the number 1 pick in the draft at this rate. So assuming that we stand course and we stay in trajectory of this losing season, there's 2 options that I see possibly happening for the Giants. So, 1, I hope and I think that they're going to try and draft Travis Hunter. Now, Travis Hunter, he plays for Colorado. He is arguably a top 5 wide receiver and a top 5 cornerback in the entirety of college football, which really, really says a lot. There has never been a player that elite on both ends of the floor, and I think that he is definitely going to be a high pick in this draft. The only reason why I don't see him going to the Giants off of this, if the Giants do get the number 1 pick, is because of Deion Sanders. Now, Deion Sanders, he's said multiple times that he's not going to allow Travis Hunter to get drafted to a team that is not going to play him on both positions. And obviously, Deion's just looking out for his players. He wants his players to succeed, and he sees just how competent Travis Hunter is on not just the offense, but also on the defensive side of the ball, and he's not going to let some team limit his greatness, which I totally understand. However, I do think that might be a problem, because not only does Dion not like the Giants because he played for the Cowboys and he also played for San Fran, but chances are that the injuries coming in from Travis Hunter are going to be even greater if he plays for the Giants, because we know that the Giants, they don't really have the best turf in the world, and that turf tends to get a lot of players injured really, really fast. I mean, there was this one game where I watched from actually there's been several games like this, but it seemed like every single player on both teams ended up going down with injuries. I don't remember exactly what game that was because, again, there's a lot of games just like that the Giants have played. But that field is not really the best. So there's a chance that he might not get drafted by the Giants if Dion has anything to say about it, but that's okay. We can go to the original plan, which was to draft a quarterback, which is to draft, in my opinion, I think it should be Cam Ward. He's a quarterback for University of Miami, and I mean, he's just been phenomenal. They did lose to Georgia Tech recently in college football, and he did fumble the ball to sort of seal the loss, but still, I think he's a very, very solid quarterback. And I mean, there's also Shedeur Sanders, but again, I don't think Deion Sanders is really going to allow Shedeur Sanders to play for the Giants. But again, only time will tell, and we will see when the draft comes. But those are the two options, and if they do end up selecting Travis Hunter for that draft, then they can always wait one more year. Unfortunately, that would mean that we'd have to put up with Daniel Jones for another year, which I really, really, really don't want, which is why I'm hoping that they draft Cam Ward. But they might want to try and get Archie Manning in a Giants uniform, because that's just the Manning legacy, I guess you could say. So those are the two options that I see, and that's a little bit of a recap of the NFL of the football game that ended up happening in Germany between the Giants and the Panthers. Now, obviously, this is not going to be entirely about the NFL. Now, I'm going to do the rest of the recaps for going on in the week, considering as since there aren't going to be many football games throughout the week. In fact, there's only going to be one that's happening tonight, and then there's going to be another one on Thursday. Maybe I'll dabble into college football. We'll figure that out. But for now, I'm going to shift my focus back to the NBA, because we have to talk about a huge injury coming in from Chet Holmgren, which seems like it could affect the OKC's season, at least for the remaining weeks that he's out. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.